The two young women shared rooms, high in an old artist's building. Inside were their beds and art tools. Outside, cold rain fell between the brick walls. Johnsy wanted to live as an artist, but a serious illness was taking away her hope. Sue, her closest friend, feared she might lose Johnsy before winter ended. From her narrow bed, she watched the cold world beyond the window, while her unfinished pictures waited quietly around the room. In better days, Johnsy and Sue painted pictures together and dreamed of happier futures. Now their brushes and easels stood near the high window as winter approached. Cold rain tapped the tall window as she moved around the room, keeping her voice gentle and her hands busy. A doctor visited Johnsy, listened carefully to her breathing, and then asked Sue to follow him into the hall, where they could speak without troubling her. In the quiet hall, the doctor turned to Sue. His worried expression showed that Johnsy's condition was serious, and that medicine might not be enough.
She is very weak. Her chances, perhaps 1 in 10. That chance depends on her wish to live. Does she have something to hope for?
She hoped to paint the blue sea one day.
Try to make her interested in life,
the doctor remarked, his face serious.
If she stops fighting, medicine can do little.
The truth was obvious from his serious face. After he left, Sue cried quietly. Then she washed her face, picked up her drawing board, and returned to Johnsy. She began a picture for a magazine because she wanted to earn enough money for food and medicine. Work was necessary, even while fear stayed close beside her. While Sue worked, she softly sang an old song. Johnsy lay still, looking toward the window and the wall outside, which was covered by an old ivy vine.
12.
A little later, she spoke again.
11.
What are you counting, dear?
Beyond the glass, the old vine climbed the brick wall. Rain moved through its thin branches, and another heart-shaped leaf dropped into the courtyard.
The leaves on the vine. 3 days ago, there were almost 100. Now they are falling quickly.
Leaves have nothing to do with your health.
Johnsy did not answer. Her eyes stayed on the vine beyond the high window, watching each wet leaf as the cold rain continued to fall.
When the last leaf falls, I must go too. I have counted them all.
Sue took her cold hand.
That is a foolish idea. The doctor says you can get well.
Johnsy turned toward the window again. She did not look at Sue or the drawing board. Outside, on the old ivy vine, only 5 leaves remained. Sue pulled the curtain across the window, hoping to stop Johnsy from watching the ivy vine. Still, Johnsy repeatedly asked her to open it.
I want to see the last leaf fall. Then I can stop waiting.
Sue kept the curtain closed, trying not to show her fear. Sue could deduce that fear had taken control of her friend. Johnsy was unaware of how deeply those words hurt Sue, who struggled to stay calm.
Please close your eyes and rest. I must finish this picture today.
Johnsy agreed, but she continued listening to the rain. Sue went downstairs to ask Behrman for help. The old painter lived below them. For 40 years, he had dreamed of one great work, yet had never begun it. He earned a little money by standing as a model for other artists. Sue found him beside an empty painting stand, among smells of oil, smoke, and old paint.
Johnsy believes she will die when the last ivy leaf falls.
Behrman struck the table with his hand.
Is anyone foolish enough to believe such a thing?
She is very ill. The idea feels real to her.
His angry remark could not hide his worry. It was obvious that he loved both young women, seeing them as the family he had never had.
Come upstairs. I need you to stand for my picture.
Behrman followed her. They entered quietly because Johnsy had fallen asleep, then moved together toward the window. They looked through the glass. Only one leaf remained on the vine, hanging from a branch about 6 meters above the yard. The leaf's edges were yellow, but its center was still dark green. Behrman and Sue looked at each other without speaking, as hard rain struck the courtyard. From the hard rain, they could deduce what might happen that night. Outside, the vine was battered all night without mercy. Neither of them spoke. Behrman stared at the last leaf for a long time, his face troubled. Then he turned away and went downstairs alone. Johnsy remained unaware. Illness had confined Johnsy to bed, but her thoughts stayed with the vine outside. During the night, rain struck the window, and strong wind shook the whole building. Sue slept for only 1 hour. At first light, Johnsy woke and called to her friend, her eyes fixed on the closed curtain beside the bed.
Open the curtain. I want to see.
Sue obeyed, although she expected to see an empty branch. Instead, the last leaf was still there. Its dark green center faced the room. Its yellow edges seemed weak, but it held tightly to the brick wall.
It will fall today. Then I will die.
Think of me. What will I do without you?
Johnsy did not reply. Johnsy had spoken, not asked or commanded. Sue remembered the hopeless remark about dying when the last leaf fell. She had allowed one dark idea to confine her mind, so nothing else seemed important. Sue stayed beside her, unable to turn her thoughts toward life. All day, the leaf remained. Another storm arrived after sunset. The wind cried between the buildings, while heavy rain beat again and again against the glass. Neither woman knew where Behrman had been during the worst hours. They were unaware that someone had crossed the yard in the storm and darkness. The next morning, Johnsy again asked Sue to open the curtain. The leaf still held its place. Johnsy watched it silently for a long time. The change was not obvious at first, but Sue could deduce that something inside her friend was changing. Hope was quietly returning after the long storm.
Please bring me some soup.
Sue smiled and hurried to the stove.
I have been bad. That leaf stayed to show me my mistake. Wanting to die is wrong.
Johnsy ate a little soup. Later, she asked for a mirror and brushed her hair. These small acts showed Sue that her friend wanted to live again.
One day, I still want to paint the blue sea.
The doctor came that afternoon and examined Johnsy carefully. When he finished, his expression was thoughtful, and he quietly asked Sue to follow him outside. The doctor spoke privately to Sue in the hall. His first news brought relief, but then his face became serious as he mentioned another patient.
Your friend has left danger behind. Good food and care will make her strong again.
Then his face became serious.
Now I must see Behrman downstairs. He has the same illness, and he is very weak. We will take him to the hospital today.
In the upper studio bedroom, Johnsy was still confined to bed, yet color had returned to her face, and the quiet room no longer felt like a place without hope. She could now sit up, eat a little, and speak about the paintings she hoped to make. Sue sat beside the narrow bed and gently took her hand. Even today, Johnsy has remained confined to bed since the first storm, although her hope and strength have returned.
I must tell you something about Mr. Behrman. He died in the hospital today. He was ill for only 2 days.
Johnsy's fingers tightened around hers. Johnsy stared at Sue in shock. The returning color seemed to leave her face as she waited to hear how the old painter had died.
Someone found him in his room after the first storm. His clothes and shoes were wet and cold.
Sue continued, still holding Johnsie's hand. At first, no one could deduce why Behrman had gone outside. Then a lantern, a ladder, and several brushes were discovered, together with green and yellow paints near the brick wall. The wet tools made the truth obvious. On that freezing night, Behrman had carried his ladder and paints across the brick courtyard and worked beside the old wall.
Look at the last leaf. Did you never wonder why it stayed still during the wind?
Johnsie turned toward the window and studied the leaf against the old brick. The leaf appeared strong against the old brick, yet its shape and colors never changed. Johnsie watched it closely, beginning to understand what those unchanging marks meant.
It was painted there on the night the real leaf fell. Mr. Behrman painted it during the storm.
Johnsie remained silent, looking from Sue to the painted leaf. Johnsie had been unaware of the old man's brave act. He had gone into the freezing rain to give her hope, and his final picture had helped save her life.
Your hope has returned, because his leaf did not fall.
The quiet remark stayed with Johnsie as she looked back toward the window. Johnsie's eyes filled with tears. She understood at last why the leaf had remained through 2 storms, untouched by winds that should have torn a real leaf away. Behrman had spent years waiting to create one great painting. In the end, he made it for someone he loved, when she needed courage more than anything else.
That last leaf was his greatest work.
Outside the window, the painted leaf stayed forever on the brick wall. Here are some of the words you met in this story. Say each one to yourself.